Walking through Westfield, you're inundated with advertisements of striking long-limbed models who are paid thousands of dollars for each campaign. These faces that we see are the top girls, the ones that have a steady flow of modelling work and a bank account that never dwindles. The others, or small-time models, lead a very different life. I chose to leave modelling almost 2 years ago. I was at the top of my game, but the pressure to remain size 0 had gotten too much, and I succumbed to an eating disorder. I mainly worked in Sydney, as did most of my friends. However, a lot of them did not receive as much modelling work as I did and maintained a second job, but the same body pressures and anxieties applied just as much to them as anyone else. That's the thing about the models you don't see in retail windows. They are average girls living with one foot in the normal world and the other in a much more hostile place. I call it a model's purgatory. I'm going to be speaking to 2 Sydney-based models about their experiences in the industry and where they are in their lives now. I want to know if in their eyes, modelling is really all it's cracked up to be and worth everything it requires. So I'm here at Stephanie Murphy's place in Woolloomooloo. She and I go way back to when I started modelling. And we've been friends ever since, and yeah, I'm just going to see kind of what she has to say about the industry and, you know, how her experience has been.
My name's Stephanie Murphy and I'm 23 and I've been modelling for 9 years. Everyone always tells the tall girls, like, you should be a model, and then eventually I listened to that and I entered a competition when I was 14. And I won that, and from there I started working really small on the Gold Coast where I'm from, and then I got a contract in Sydney. So the last couple of years has sort of been a bit of a hate-love, all-or-nothing kind of mentality. So I've been working overseas in New York where I've completely dedicated myself to it and realised how strict it is over in the States, especially to work as a model. They're the most strict on weight. And then when I come back to Sydney, for whatever reason, I guess because of home, it kind of just, I always taper off a little bit. I always keep another job just because the industry's not as big, there's not as much work, and yeah.
Did you end up coming back with any money from New York?
Oh, no.
Did you lose
definitely
money?
Not. Yeah, I'd definitely say I probably lost more money than I made. It's hard to go back to being a poor student, and committing to that is actually the biggest struggle for me right now, because I've been living a pretty chilled out, luxurious lifestyle for so many years now that going back to being just a poor student is the biggest struggle, but it's something necessary in order to get to where I want to be in my life.
Yeah, because you do want to focus on education and career.
So I'm just outside Millie Mackenzie's house. She was modelling with me when she was probably 17, so quite a bit younger than I was. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Good. Hi, my name's Millie. I'm 20 years old and I've been modelling for 3.5 years on and off. I got scouted when I was quite young, and my parents just refused for me to start, so I waited until I finished school, and then I went back to Chic and they gave me a 3-year contract. I guess with the unreliable pay of modelling, I had to keep up a second job. That's the reality of the industry. If you need to support yourself in Sydney, which is very expensive, you'll have to have another job for a consistent income. Yeah.
And do you think a lot of girls go into it thinking it's going to be this kind of lavish lifestyle and, they're going to have a lot of money?
For sure.
Did you have that?
The pay's so sporadic, yeah. But I didn't realise it was until I started. So, yeah, you soon realise that, certain jobs, certain clients won't pay for a while, and, that's fine, and I've accepted that now as well, yeah. My dad always reminded me and made me aware of the fact that, there was that education was important as well, and made me aware of the expiration date of modelling, and kept me kind of focused on that. There was definitely other priorities as well as modelling. Yeah, that's important for girls to note as well when entering like the modelling world, is that there is, you know, there's other things you need to kind of uphold, such as, you know, getting a degree or, you know, having another job.
It seemed that both girls had pretty similar views about modelling, but I wanted to find out what someone from the industry in a different role had to say. I decided to meet up with one of my old agency bookers, Natalia Parsonson, to hear her thoughts on the matter.
I mean, I guess there's a lot of young girls who look to their sort of, you know, maybe their idols are supermodels, or maybe their idols are superstars, or, you know, even for me, when I was a little girl, I thought I could be like Madonna or something, you know, and it's just, it is a fantasy, it is like some girl's dream to be on the cover of a magazine, to walk down the runway and wear beautiful clothes and have makeup, and like, yeah, it is this whole, like, quite a common fantasy with young girls. And yeah, I mean, the thing with anything in life is that you've got to have, you've got to be realistic. I mean, I think if you have a second job and you know, you have a few things going on, you're studying, you're working, I think modelling is definitely a worthwhile, you know, thing that you can have on the side as well, because, you know, it's an opportunity. It can be sometimes great extra cash.
I felt like there was one thing that everyone I had interviewed agreed on, that modelling is great to have on the side, but really, it's just an unreliable cash cow that perks up your bank account every so often. I wanted to speak to someone about the emotional ramifications that modelling can have on a person. So I got in touch with my therapist, Katrina Diva, to talk about body image and identity.
So I guess in terms of identity, that actually does present really commonly. So even when we look at how the eating disorder works, often identity or someone's sense of identity is at the core of it. So often the eating disorder may take over a new identity, but when we see it with models, it might be, in terms of their identity, that thin ideal has really been reinforced in the work they're doing, and so that becomes very much their sense of identity as a person. So in terms of the work here, often it is actually really supporting someone to, I guess, see a bigger picture in terms of their identity. So modelling might be one aspect, but there are also other people outside of that industry.
I began to see that the reason I'd become so sick when I was modelling was because it was the only thing I had. I'd quit uni and stopped working in hospitality when I went full-time in the industry. Unlike Stephanie and Millie, being a model was my identity, and I've had to work very hard in therapy to let this go. But maybe this is part of the reason why both girls haven't completely stopped. Maybe it's a big part of their identity too. Theories aside, I felt like everyone thought of modelling in the same way. It's a job that should be accompanied by other ventures and interests so that it does not take over your entire life and become who you are. Because like in my case, getting sucked in can cause severe emotional problems that don't just go away.